In the silence of the night, a bird can be heard singing a song it hopes never ends. But then, with its wings sprawled wide, in the flash of light, it can fall to the floor and struggle to rise again. Damage with dwindled strength, it can take one of two ways. It can learn to fly again, or it can retreat, waiting with a once useful, now useless pair of wings. So easy is it to take the path that was given to it, the one where they can sulk in their sorrows, staying in the shadows where the trees bend low and the shade is porous, dreaming of what life would be like tomorrow if not for the plunge it did take, if not for the pain and the fears that did awake. So the bird fell into a momentary freeze, in a paralysis, but soon it began to see animals running with their feet and birds flapping with their working wings in the direction it was once headed for. For a fire was engulfing its homeland, and though the bird could see the smoke out afar, it was not ready yet. But then, as another flock of birds came flying by, one steps by its side and says to it, "Do you not see it? The burning trees, the burning community?" And still the bird can resist. Although the bird could see the flames approaching, it still does not attempt to fly, for it is governed by its fears, because it fears what life could be like when it crosses the threshold of another life. For fear is a constant characterization in our lives, making every step forward feel like a chance of falling off the nest where we rest. But in life, sometimes we must change, and sometimes we must leave and step out of the light and into the shadows of uncertainty, asking ourselves just this one question: what awaits in that whole pit of darkness? But in every story of destruction, there comes an inevitable resistance or a temptation towards resistance. For within our nature lies the mind mechanic of wanting to stay what's comfortable for us, and it prevents the embrace of change. And whether it be a good or a bad change for us doesn't necessarily matter, but rather that any change can lead to an upheaval and instability in our wake. And instability and uncertainty is often something we are afraid of, and something that we viscerally fear in ourselves. So we say to ourselves, "I am not ready yet. I am not ready yet." For so often does letting go feel like an act of defiance to the path and life we thought we were headed for, but now taken from us. Because so easy is it to become paralyzed by our fears and to become afraid of what awaits for us. But often we do know what is needed, and we know what needs to happen in order for change to transpire and to change us in our lives. But the final destination to that place where we want to be is often hazy, uncertain, and unknown. And in uncertainty, we can often ask ourselves, like the bird in this story, what is the meaning to all of this? How does one accept a bursting fade and not feel afraid? But the hard thing about change is that we do not know. Uncertainty and its many ways is unknown to us. We cannot escape fear, but we must move past it and not hold on to it. In the scripture that inspired this sermon, Philippians 4:4-9, Verses 4 through 7 details how we must trust in God and how we must not fear or be afraid, but rather offer up our prayers and concerns to God. For it is through him that our deepest, most frightened prayers can be answered in ways so unique and supreme that one day we can see what the pain could possibly mean. Trusting in his ways and his path for us, and while sometimes it can mean just letting life happen to us, other times it takes an effort within. The weak-winged bird, still waiting a response, now stares at the bird which is now flying above it, waiting and waiting for an answer. But the working winged bird does not know more than it, but all it knows is these few words which it can say. It is your life. You decide. And it flies away. But now, left alone, with the flame approaching, destruction was almost here. And no longer could the bird just hope and pray to God that some miraculous change would happen and that all of these issues will smooth over and that it can go back to what once was. Because God knew this would have been a tribulation and a challenge for it, but still, God gave this challenge to it, hoping that the bird would take that leap of faith and do the right thing, even when it does not make sense, and even when it is scary, and even when it is uncertain and hurts the most. It was the end of hoping for miraculous change, for now the bird must take its life and make one of their own, and following the task which God has given to it and tasked it with, and live in it. Trying, adjusting, progressing, changing, and loving in spite of it all. I bring up this sort of parable now because I realize that we, this church, are in a deep period of change. We have been plunged into uncertainty, where things have adjusted and churned in ways we likely would have never predicted. It feels as if a fire has engulfed our church, and it has taken everything we thought once was certain with it. And it is a scary thing, easing into the unknown and plunging into it blind. But within the winds of uncertainty, we must trust in the flow of things. For the rivers will always run, and the wind will always blow, and life will always be given continually. But with the birth of new things also comes the destruction of many. And often we never view destruction as a good or a positive thing, but there is something so renewing and being left within nothing. For the darkness always leaves a possibility for light, the possibility for change, and for the possibility of the sun to shine again. For every day can fear pervade in our lives, but we must let go of fear and rethink, take a deep breath, and reimagine and repurpose our lives until we find another path again. Because we will. We will. We will. In this story, we do not know how it ends. Maybe the bird became paralyzed by its fears and let the flames take over. Maybe the bird tried to fly but could not. Or maybe the bird was able to fly and escape the flames and create a life of its own. We do not know. But its life was in its own hands, and like the bird, we too are in a period where it is up to us, this congregation, to decide what happens to this church's life. So, as we begin this journey of trying to find where we go from here and to redefine our church's life and where we are headed, there are a few vital things I urge each of you to think about. Who are we? What do we stand for? Where do we go from here? How do we allow God a seat at our table whilst it is constantly moving? While we shake unsteady, how do we keep a seat for Him? And how do we keep a table for us? Although there was one thing that among these many changes we should always keep with us. The scripture which I chose has a few more verses I didn't mention before. Verses 8 through 9 goes like this. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whether you have learned or received them or heard them from me or seen in me, put them into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. And evidently, these are qualities which must be held high in this congregation. These are things which we can never let go of, ever. And though there will come disagreements, we must, just as there was between the people who the scripture was addressed to, we must work in synchronicity until unity and renewal comes. But for now, outside, it is quiet again, just as it was when we entered this room. Traveling and traveling, we will find somewhere new, somewhere that bloomed just as bright as the last, because this uncertainty too will pass. For the nearer the time that we fly, the further our minds are put to rest. And the nearer we seek the song of sending, the longer our ears will drum with dread. For time will tick and life will spin, but here we are, cage-captured, creasing, decreasing, descending, plummeting, perishing. For life is leaving, but we are breathing, able to decide whether to go beaming and breathing and leaving towards something gleaming. Thank you.